Well, hello there everyone and welcome back to episode 6 of the Spigot coding series. In last episode we actually made ourselves our first clickable item, this being a rocket launcher, or towards the end also a entity launcher. And in today's episode we're going to focus all on particle trails. So moving particle trails and idle particle trails and particle effects around a player. So yeah, let's stop talking and get right into it. So the first thing we want to do is actually create the moving particle trail. For that we want to create ourselves a new class again, and we just call this particle listener. Alright, same procedure again, implements listener, and don't forget to register everything in the main class. As you can see, everything is looking a bit different now since I got myself some IntelliJ add-ons that someone suggested in the comments last episode, so thank you for that. I'm pretty sure that was also Matrix. Thank you so much again. I really actually enjoy all this, how it looks. So yeah, if you guys are wondering why everything looks a bit different, that is just why. Alright, creating moving particles is really simple and generally just particle trails, so all you want to do here is add a new event handler and create a new event method called display particle on walk, or as always you can call this whatever you want, and for this we want the player move event. You need to know though, for the player move event it gets triggered on just moving blocks and moving your head. Both of these trigger the player move event. So yeah, the one thing you want to do here is declare the player, and you can do that by getting the player. You can do one thing to display the particles only when you're actually moving. You could check if the eget from distance eget to, if this is less than, let's say, I don't know, 0.05, or if this equals to 0, then you can just return. So this basically just means if the player is not moving and just moving their head, it will not trigger the event. And now all you have to do is just p.getWorld.spawn particle. Here's also the same thing with the sounds from last episode. If you do just p.spawn particle, it will only be visible for that player. If you spawn the particle in the player's world though, it will be visible to everyone in that world. So yeah, let's actually spawn a particle. And you see there's a lot of variations you can go over here. But there's one of these that I always use, because you don't need more than that, and that's enough customization. So first of all, you start with a particle. You just do particle dot, and then you have all your particles right here. Some of my favorites are the firework spark, end rod, and flame particles, also the soul fire flame. So let me actually go with the soul fire flame for now. Then the next argument you need is the location. Let's actually display this particle at the player's feet. So for this we just need to do p.getLocation. The next variable is the amount of particles that should be displayed. Let's just do 2, or let's do 5 for now to go a bit more. The next 3 variables are the x, y, and z offsets in which the particles can spawn, and this goes for each direction. So let's say I stand at the middle of the block right here, and I put a offset from x and c of 0.5. It will go all the way to here and to here. So if I would type 1 in here, it would also go towards the middle of this block right here. So let's do this to like 0.125, 0, and 0.125. That basically being a quarter of a block in diameter around the player. I think that should be a pretty good value. The next argument is the velocity or the speed of the particle. This does not work with all particles. Some particles are hard-coded to be static, so you sadly can't move them. You just have to try out which are movable and which not. And for this we are just going to do a 0.1 for now. And that is basically it already. There's nothing more you need to do for particle trails. You could check if, for example, a player has a permission to only display the particles then, or do some more advanced stuff in the future, which we are also going to do, which is basically if you select this particle, just display it. We are also going to create a particle selection menu in a future episode. So yeah, we are free to export this now and upload to the server. I quickly need to restart the server though, since I still have the old version on it and I can't restart. Alright, and after the server has started, once I move my head, you can already see the particles are spawning already. You can judge whatever you want, if they are maybe too fast moving or if there's too many particles. You can freely change everything now. So let's say if I put the velocity to 0.025, for whatever reason I had a weird bug there that I could not package it anymore, but I just had to restart my IntelliJ and now it's working again. So let me re-export this, and now the current speed is like this, and now if I reload again, you can see that it's now just very subtle. So yeah, let's get to the next task, that being idle particles. So particles that basically just display around you at all times. We could use our users class that we created from last episode for this, or you can create a separate particle class, or you could even make it in the particle listener. And if you would do it in here, I would rename this to particle manager. So we could actually do this right here. So let's rename this to particle manager, so that we basically have everything uniform in one class. And now we want to create a new public static method called start particle scheduler. This is something you could either have running at all times, or you could add a separate stop method so you could stop it at all times. But just for now, we are going to have it run at all times. So what you want to do here is you want to get bucket and get a scheduler and schedule a async repeating task. We're going async here since particles can actually be spawned async. Not everything can be done asynchronous. There's a lot of things you can only do in a synchronous task. So for example, spawning entities, removing entities, and I think placing and removing blocks. But spawning particles is one of the things that can actually be async, and doing it asynchronously is always better for performance. So for this we need a plugin. We need to initialize the plugin first in here, so we want to create a new public static main instance, and you need to include the main, basically this class instance. And what we want to do here in the on enable, we want to type instance equals this. You can also make this private and add a get method down here. You can do it however you want, and this basically just is our main instance, so well, the Java plugin that initializes everything. And since you need a plugin here, we can now type main get instance, and this is working now. So yeah, now we need a new runnable, so you can just type new runnable, and you see it is a red. That is because after this right here we need to create we need to type in 2 longs, so basically the offsets. These offsets are in ticks, so basically if you would type 20 here, it would be delayed by 1 second. The first argument is the delay. We can set this to 0, and the second argument is basically how long I should wait until it goes through this run function again. So we can put this to 1, so it gets displayed 20 times a second, or 2, which is basically a good balance, so it gets displayed 10 times a second. If you want it way smoother, you can type 1, but then you need to keep in mind the more players are online, the more laggy it will be. Even 4 would be okay, because it would be 5 times a second. But I'm just going to put it at 1 for now, just for demonstration purposes. And now what we need to do is we need to get every player that is online, so bucket get online players, and then for each one of them, so for each one player, you can press Control space here to bring up this menu, and then just press enter on player, put on some brackets, and now basically everything that is in here will be, well, executed for every player on the server. You could also beforehand check if bucket get online players is empty, and then you can just return. You could do that, but that is basically not necessary, since this will not do anything if no one is online anyways. So yeah, now you can basically just copy paste this code right here. I'm gonna call this P instead of player, and then let's change the particle a bit. Let's do a end rod, the player's location, but we're going to add 0.750, or let's do this to 1, and then right here let's do 0.25, 0.5, and 0.25. Set the particle amount also to 1. So basically what we did here, we created a new scheduler, which is basically running everything in here every single tick, so 20 times a second, and that is just for every player on the server. It will basically just spawn the particle like we did up here, but instead it's an end rod, it's at the player's location, 1 block higher, it's only 1 particle, the offset is a bit different. That's basically everything that I did here. And now one thing we need to do, we actually need to start this. So in our main class, as the last thing, we can basically just do particle manager dot start particle scheduler, and that will just start this one time. The scheduler will run constantly until the server is stopped, or until you actually cancel the scheduler. So yeah, we can now package this, and I need to restart my IntelliJ again. So yeah, after the packaging is finally working and you are able to export the plugin, we can now type /reload_confirm, and as you can see, the idle particles are also displaying alongside with our movement particles. So you can play around in a lot of different ways with this. There is infinite customization for particles basically, and you can just display however nice you want it to be. So yeah, let's just do one thing so you can actually see how you can do it with permissions as well. Let's just say if the player is not OP, then do nothing. Let's do this for both of these. This for each is different than a for loop, so don't get confused if I type return here. This is basically just a new method. This is not going through a for loop itself. So yeah, if I export again, and I'm going to reload real quick, you can see everything is still working perfectly fine. But now if I would quickly de-op myself, you can see the particles stop working, and there's also no movement particles anymore. But the moment that I OP myself again, you can see the particles actually start appearing once more. So yeah, that is basically everything for this episode. I hope you learned something new today. The next episode, I gotta see what I'm actually going to do there, but I have still some ideas in the back of my mind. So yeah, if you have any suggestions, or if you want to see anything, any ideas, please leave them down below in the comments. I would greatly appreciate that, since I'm starting to run out of ideas, and it would be a great help for me. But yeah, until then, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully we'll see each other next Friday again. See you everyone.